the day I had the biggest fallout with my childhood sweetheart. He slapped me for the girl he loved, so I broke 3 of his ribs in return. He shouted that he wanted a divorce. I refused. I thought we'd drag each other down to the grave like this, but fate is always quick to humble you. 3 months later, I fell head over heels for a sweet, gentle younger man. He begged me to make it official, so I had no choice but to pull that familiar number out of my block list. When I called, a playful voice came through the line. Selena, it's too late. Even if you crawl back like a dog now. Ethan wouldn't look at you twice. Facing her provocation, I calmly replied, tell Ethan I want a divorce. The next moment, it sounded like the phone was snatched away. There was a shuffle of noise. Then Ethan's voice came through, shaky and strained. He said, Selena, don't you dare. Chapter 1. The year I hated Ethan the most was the year I hit his beloved girl, and he slapped me across the face in return, then asked for a divorce. All these years, the thing Ethan told me the most was to behave, to act more like Lily, sweet and soft-spoken. This was the first time he ever asked for a divorce. I didn't agree. I pinned him to the floor and broke 3 of his ribs, and before he could open his mouth again, I wrapped my hands around his neck and choked him unconscious. Just before Ethan passed out, eyes rolled back. I gave him one final message. If you want a divorce, dream on. If you too want to drive me crazy, then you'll both pay the price. Lily will always be a mistress, and the 2 of you will forever live under my shadow. At that time, I had already drawn up a list of revenge plans, ready to spend the rest of my life entangled in this mutual destruction. I hold grudges, and once I sink my teeth into prey, I never let go. 3 years of marriage. Ethan had turned me from a woman full of joy walking into marriage into a madwoman. That disgusting pair had ruined me. I swore even if I wasted my entire life, I would never let them live in peace. I had even bought property outside, preparing for a long-term war. But life never tells you what it has planned. I thought I'd torment Ethan forever, but on just the 3rd day, I found Luis, passed out from hunger, right at my doorstep. At the time, I'd heard Ethan had woken up in the hospital and was ranting to all our visiting relatives and friends, calling me insane. I was thrilled, put on makeup, picked the boldest, brightest dress I had, ready to make a dramatic entrance and piss him off. But the moment I stepped outside the courtyard, I tripped over something large and human-shaped. In a daze, I turned it over, only to see a face brimming with youthful energy. Luis had been robbed of his luggage, got tricked into working 3 days for free unloading stock at a supermarket, and was now completely delirious from hunger. In that moment, his hand clutched at the hem of my dress. I saw his lips move. I couldn't help but lean closer. Then I heard his whisper of a voice, Mom. There was a long silence. Finally, I couldn't help asking, Are you calling me Mom? No reply. He had already fainted. Chapter 2. Later, I found out that Mom Luis whispered that day was nothing but a hallucination brought on by starvation. When he was little, his birth mother abandoned him in a park. The last time he saw her, she was wearing a red dress just like mine. So when he collapsed in front of my door and saw me crouch down in a red dress, he thought she had come to take him to heaven. When he admitted all this, I couldn't help but throw my head back and laugh. Halfway through, I realized no one was laughing with me, that it wasn't funny at all. Luis sat in front of me, looking up with wide, dewy eyes, staring at my unhinged face, not with anger, not with embarrassment, but with quiet, sincere worry. He's tall, nearly 6 feet 3 inches, and his height alone is intimidating. But his demeanor is anything but. When I looked at him, he grew nervous and instinctively rested his head on the armrest, gazing at me with those soft, glassy eyes. He said nothing, but it felt like he had spoken volumes, suddenly realizing I'd just taken out my bitterness on a soul that was pure and almost transparent. I felt a sting of guilt, but I didn't know how to apologize. 3 years of a toxic marriage had taught me only how to attack, to shout, to cover up my own vulnerability. I had spent so long being entangled with Ethan. I almost forgot that before I married him, I was the proud heiress of Haiching, that confident, graceful girl who could command a room, was buried in the deepest corners of my memory. Now, all I held was anger at the world. I once thought I'd be stuck in that hatred forever. But Luis reached out, like a puppy, nudging my hand with his fingers, until I opened my palm, and he placed something in it. A pendant, the one he always wore around his neck. It was a gift from his parents when he was born, back when he was still loved. Then his father died in an accident, and his mother remarried, leaving him behind. That pendant was the only good memory life had given him, and now, he had taken it off, to give to me. He said, "This used to be the most important thing to me, but now, you are. I'm giving it to you, hoping it can make you happy." Then he gently closed my fingers around it, and kissed my hand where it had formed a fist. That was in his 3rd month living with me. At first, I'd kept him around out of amusement, curious what this sweet, naive stray wanted from me. But he never asked for anything. He simply stood up, tied on an apron, and headed into the kitchen to make me a new, healthy recipe. The spatula he used was something I had once bought, intended as a weapon to smash Ethan's head in during our fights. It looked small and delicate in Luis's hands, but he wielded it skillfully. The boy had a soft smile on his lips. Sunlight streamed in, lighting up his amber puppy eyes like honeyed glass. On impulse, I walked over and asked, "Why are you so happy?" He answered, "Because I get to cook for you." Just that, a simple reason. And yet, there could be many interpretations. Because someone finally ate his cooking? Because he finally had a safe home to prepare meals in? Or just because he liked cooking for me? Staring into those honest, clear eyes, I didn't dare ask further. Chapter 3. Under my protection. Luis had finally found a decent job. No one dared bully this poor, fatherless, honest-hearted boy anymore. He was 19. At 18, he'd gotten into a good university, but had no money to attend, so he came to the city, hoping for better opportunities, only to be scammed right after stepping off the train. Still, things were looking up now. He had new ID documents, wore the clothes I bought him, and headed to work every day full of energy. He always came home with bags full of groceries. He said I was too skinny. Whenever he held my wrist, he didn't know where to apply force. His chiseled face always scrunched with concern. To be fair, I wasn't that petite. I had even taken boxing classes just so I could one-punch Ethan and Lily into hell. But Luis was huge, tall and broad. He used to do manual labor during part-time gigs, which meant he ate far more than the average person. So after his bag was stolen, he hit starvation faster than anyone else. Now that he could finally eat, there was always a quiet joy on his face. But despite his build, he was socially anxious, sensitive and shy. His coworkers said he didn't talk much, but no one found him cold, because he worked all day, taking on both his tasks and theirs without complaint. Luis was kind, sincere, and filled with light, the complete opposite of me. I was bitter, drenched in darkness, my head filled with thoughts of how to torment my cheating husband and his little mistress. The fact I missed the chance to strut into Ethan's hospital room that day, all because I was afraid Luis would die on my doorstep, didn't mean I had let Ethan off the hook. No, how could I let go of the man who chased me with all his youthful passion for 27 years, only to grow bored the moment we got married, and fall in love with a younger girl, who just happened to look a little like me. Chapter 4. The last time I saw Ethan was in his office. I'd gone there to talk about divorce, 3 years of marriage, and our honeymoon phase had barely lasted one. The rest of the time, I spent doubting myself and wasting away in internal battles. Eventually, I accepted that this marriage was a failure. I just wanted to sit down and have an honest conversation. But I didn't expect Lily to be hiding under his desk. The two of them made eye contact right in front of me, as if I were part of some roleplay scene. Lily even thought she was being discreet, resting her head against Ethan's thigh and smirking mischievously. And me? When Ethan leaned his head back with that satisfied grunt, his throat bobbing with pleasure, I stormed forward, grabbed Lily by the hair, and dragged her out from under the desk. She screamed. I slapped her. Her delicate, pale face turned red and swollen instantly. Then came Ethan's voice behind me. "Selena, I turned instinctively, and the next thing I saw was white light bursting in my vision. He had hit me. I staggered, disoriented. Ethan looked down on me from above. So you've finally learned how to fight for attention? Too bad. You just look more pathetic this way. His sharp words fell like knives. My world spun into chaos. I remembered the first time he confessed to me. His eyes had glowed. You hold your head high like a princess. He said, I want to protect you forever. But that didn't last. What came later was, she knows how to be gentle. She knows how to please me. What about you? Show me you love me more than she does. He started bringing Lily to important events. She'd hide nervously behind him. Guests would look at the obvious divide between us and whisper. I'd stand tall, chin up, beneath the glittering crystal chandelier, like a queen without a court. But every time I turned away, cold and resolute, he'd follow, wrap his arms around me in the shadows and whisper, so you're really mad? Looks like my queen does care about me after all. His kisses would trail down my neck, his voice thick with desire. She's nothing compared to you. You're my rose, raised by my hand. Year after year, he'd bury his face in my neck and murmur, you're so cute when you're stubborn and won't back down. I thought Ethan was insane. I wanted to leave. But the business ties between our families ran too deep, so I endured, and endured, until they crossed the final line. When I finally snapped, I pinned Ethan to the ground. I grabbed an ashtray and smashed it over and over into him. I screamed like a madwoman. You think I won't fight back? You two screwing each other in front of me like it's a game. And then you dare lay a hand on me? Blood streamed down his face. It was almost scary. Lily was curled in the corner, shrinking into the wall. So quiet she didn't even dare breathe. Selena. He spat. Won't behave? Then let's divorce. Even now. His eyes locked on me. Voice full of threats. That's what Ethan always wanted. Push me until I cracked. And then enjoy watching me break. But now, watching his twisted, pain-filled face, I started laughing. You know what, Ethan? Assault charges are serious. But domestic violence? They just give you a warning. As long as we're still married, I'll keep making your life hell. I bared my teeth in a smile. Divorce? In your dreams. I must have looked insane, because I saw something new in Ethan's eyes. Fear. When I grabbed his throat. Part of me wanted to end it for both of us, right then. But was it worth it? To let him off that easy? No. The only thing keeping me alive was hatred. By now, my life was twisted beyond recognition. I was a madwoman. A shrew. Everyone despised me, and I was still clinging to a man who no longer loved me. My hands began to tremble again. Then, a warm touch rested in my palm. I turned. Luis was kneeling beside me. His cheek pressed gently to my hand. He peeled open my fingers, one by one, ignoring the crescent-shaped wounds my nails had left. When water and soft words didn't help, he simply leaned in, placed his face against my palm, and slowly brought me back to the surface. His eyes, those round, clear puppy eyes, stared up at me. I looked down at his face. Still young, still boyish, but sculpted like a half-foreign model. Luis was, no doubt, beautiful, but his eyes were too pure. You couldn't think dirty thoughts when he looked at you like that. His cheeks and ears were pink, but his worry overwhelmed his embarrassment. When he noticed I was looking, he seemed to gather courage. He took a breath and said, please, don't hurt yourself anymore, okay? Then, he gently picked up my other hand and placed it on top of his head. When Luis first came to my house, his short, bristly hair was fun to touch. I joked that the price for staying was, let me pet you anytime I want. And now, as I watched him offer himself up so sincerely, his eyes full of innocence, I finally asked the question that had been on my mind. Luis, you've stayed by my side all this time. What is it you really want from me? Chapter 5. Once upon a time, I truly believed in soulmates. Like me and Ethan, he met me when I was 5 years old. The first thing he did was slide a hand-woven ring onto my finger and announce I was the princess he'd protect for life. During the years he loved me loudly and proudly. He placed me high on a pedestal. Back in school, No other boy dared come near me. And Ethan? He never strayed. Plenty of girls tried to get close to him, but Ethan just scoffed. He'd casually gesture in my direction and say, "With Selena around, why would I look at you?" Later, I left to pursue my dreams overseas. Ethan waited 3 years for me. Every chance he got, he flew to London just to see me. I still remember the first snowfall, when he hugged me from behind, voice trembling with longing, whispering how much he missed me. When I returned home and entered a messy inheritance war with my father's illegitimate children, Ethan stood firmly behind me. When I took control of my first company, he smiled and joked, "Well, looks like I'm the lucky guy dating a CEO now. Guess I better work hard or people will call me a gold digger." When I said yes to his proposal, he set off fireworks across the city, under those romantic lights. He held my hand and swore he'd spend the rest of his life treasuring me. His sincerity never once felt fake, but I overlooked the little things, like the way he'd half-jokingly, half-seriously compare me to other men's wives. They change after marriage. You know, they become softer, more caring to their husbands. He'd say, eyes full of longing. Then he'd ask, "Could I ever have that too?" I'd flick him on the forehead with a laugh. "You just want all the perks, don't you?" Ethan would sigh dramatically. "Guess marrying a strong woman means I'll have to follow her through hell or high water." But it wasn't long before he changed. Everything he once did to win me over, he started doing for Lily, almost like revenge. He gifted her every single thing he'd once given me, and more. "She's obedient," he said. "She deserves to be rewarded." To me, he only sighed. I said I'd protect a princess for life. He began, "But fairy tales end with a wedding. You've already married me. Now, your job is to maintain this marriage, not run around chasing your silly company and showing your face in public all the time." Chapter 6. I stood frozen, feeling my blood turn to ice. Ethan seemed to savor the look on my face, relishing it like fine wine. He kept going. If I could go back in time, I'd still fall for the old Selena without hesitation. "But you now? There's nothing about you that attracts me anymore." The higher he once raised me, the harder he threw me down. After that, I stopped believing in love, stopped trusting people, and I sure as hell didn't believe in Luis. How could a boy so young and handsome truly want to stay by my side, and want nothing in return? I waited for the moment Luis would ask for something. Money, contacts, favors. Surely he had an angle. All he had to do was speak. Show a little greed, a little vulnerability. Then I'd have the upper hand. Use him for eye candy, entertainment, or toss him aside. At the very least, he should want something. But Luis just looked at me with those warm, clear hazel eyes. "I found a place," he said softly. "I'm moving out tomorrow after I get paid." So, he'd already planned his exit. I gave a cold laugh. Maybe my face looked ugly, because his tone became cautious. "Slow, after I move out, can I still cook for you?" His voice grew quieter and quieter, until his fluffy head dipped so low he couldn't look at me. "Luis," I said, calm and steady, "do you want me?" His body flinched. A crimson flush raced from his cheeks to his ears. He didn't answer. I curled my lips into a teasing smirk. "You were in the bathroom the other day. I heard you call my name. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Tears welled in his eyes. He was almost crying. "You were so kind to take me in, and I had such filthy thoughts." I remembered. On his second day living with me, I'd already had his background fully investigated. Every detail, inside and out. I knew he was still a blank slate, untouched. Suddenly, I didn't feel like teasing anymore. I tilted his chin with my finger. "Hold me," I said simply. When his strong arms wrapped around me, I felt strangely dazed. I thought I'd be thinking of Ethan, of the rage and heartbreak I felt when he flaunted Lily in front of me. I thought I'd feel the thrill of revenge, but I felt none of that. I was focused on the way Luis looked at me, eyes full of love and attachment. His lashes fluttered. His breath trembled with emotion. His muscles tensed slightly like a nervous puppy. I admit, this was the most relaxed I'd felt in 3 years. Whatever his motives, at least for now, He helped pull me out of that emotional swamp, and let's be honest, he was clean, healthy, and knew what he was doing. I wasn't exactly losing out. That's what I told myself. Then his fingers gently brushed against my lips. Worried and tender. I couldn't control the sound that escaped my throat. Just as my ex-husband decided to call. 4 months. I hadn't bothered Ethan. But clearly, he couldn't stand being ignored. Chapter 7. The necklace I bought for $30 million, bring it over. It matches Lily's gown tonight. I already promised it to her as a gift, Ethan said. When I didn't respond, his voice softened with amusement. Clearly pleased with himself. Still mad? Don't blame me. That kind of jewelry doesn't suit you anymore. It adds charm to her. But on you, it's useless. You're not attractive to anyone now. The next second, I let out a soft, mocking chuckle. He froze on the other end of the line. Then, like a switch had flipped, Ethan exploded. Selena, where are you? What the hell are you doing right now? None of your damn business. I rasped back, voice hoarse from exhaustion and sarcasm. So annoying. Fine, I'll divorce you, okay? But next time, don't call when I'm busy having a good time. Ethan was clearly about to shout again. But before he could, Luis leaned over and nuzzled into my neck. Don't talk to him, he pouted softly. He's mean. His calloused fingertip traced along my palm, then pressed the screen, ending the call. The phone stayed powered off for 3 days. When I finally turned it back on, I was resting in Luis's arms. His large hands were gently massaging my calves. I teased him occasionally, just to see him blush down to his ears. Too shy to even look up. I wanted to push him further. But then I remembered how alarmingly aggressive he could be in certain situations. So I gave up on teasing and focused on the dozens of unread messages waiting on my phone. Some were from my company's proxy, giving me the expected quarterly updates. But the majority? Ethan. During those 3 days, he'd gone off the deep end, calling nonstop. When I didn't answer, he bombarded me with texts from different numbers. At first, they read, Selena, what the hell is this? Are you seriously cheating on me? Later, they shifted to, stop pretending. You can't live without me. You're driving yourself crazy trying to hold on. Don't force yourself to do things you hate. Things I hate? I raised a brow and pressed my palm to Luis's firm abs. Oh, I love this. I kept scrolling until I reached, face the truth. Selena, you're no longer the untouchable goddess you once were. No one else will love you forever. If you want my love, act like it. Be obedient. If you just bow your head and love me again, I'll always be here. If this had been the past, those words would have sent me into a rage, ready to destroy them both. But now, they were just pathetic. My heart was no longer with him. Ethan's provocations felt childish, laughable, especially after experiencing the sheer vitality of a strong, 19-year-old body. I realized I nearly wasted my entire life fighting over a man who became useless after 25. Ridiculous. I should have woken up long ago. People really do need to experience more before they understand life. I only lost because I'd been too well behaved. With that, I raised a tired hand and called Ethan. The phone rang for ages, clearly a power play, trying to make me beg. I let it ring, just when I was about to hang up. The line connected. Lily's saccharine voice answered. Selena, yeah? Ethan just got out of the shower. He doesn't have time to talk to you. Her tone was smug, practically singing with glee. And even if you're here to apologize, it's too late. You've caused so much trouble. Ethan hates you even more now. I agree to the divorce, I said calmly, cutting her off mid-performance. What? She sounded shocked, like I'd just handed her the lottery. In the next moment, there was a scramble, fabric rustling, a phone snatched, and then Ethan's angry voice came through, low and furious. Selena, I told you, if you want me back, there's a right way to do it. Don't make me teach you again. I didn't bother replying to that crap. Instead, I said, give me the right compensation, and your little darling can be official in a month. Absolutely not. He snapped. I had no time for his nonsense. Handle it fast. I said coldly. My little boy's waiting for his rightful title. I don't have time to waste with you. Chapter 8. It was as if he needed time to process my words. The call ended, and for 2 full seconds, the air was dead silent. Then came a flood of call notifications, overwhelming the screen. Calmly and without hesitation, I pulled out the SIM card. Then, using my secondary phone, I messaged my assistant to contact a lawyer and draft a divorce agreement. Once it was all done, I sat alone in the vast, empty room. Sunlight poured through the giant floor-to-ceiling windows. The room was bright, and yet, I felt cold. I curled into the sofa, wrapping myself in the thin blanket from the air conditioning. Still freezing. It was only later that I realized. It wasn't my body that was cold. It was my heart, bleeding silently. I thought that after all those years of being trampled, now that I had finally gotten the upper hand, I'd feel triumphant. I thought I'd feel victorious. But all I felt was exhaustion. Just for a moment, I felt old, even though I had taken great care of my hair, even though my face looked the same as always. Still, I could feel every ounce of strength draining from my limbs. My blood no longer flowing to my heart. Empty. I tilted my head back, staring up at the ceiling, thinking about my life, thinking about how I'd wasted 3 years, trapped in the mud with a worthless man. 3 years ago, I wasn't like this. My father was out there seducing women everywhere. My mother only knew how to cry. And a bunch of illegitimate children were lined up to fight me for the inheritance. My grandmother took me in and raised me until I was 10. After she passed away, they brought me back. What I faced then, a household full of mistresses invited in by my father. A mother who cried pitifully to me but went behind my back to complain. Even our daughter can't stand what you're doing. Can't you change? Of course. She always made herself sound innocent. She'd say, I still care about you. Why can't the 3 of us just be a proper family again? But my father didn't want that. He couldn't stand being challenged. And so, along with his parade of mistresses, came who knows how many half-brothers and half-sisters. My mother cried even more. She still pulled me aside to cry and complain. But no matter how I reacted, I never gave her anything. Never a crack in the armor. Not once. Even as the unwanted daughter of the first wife. I still built a solid reputation in the elite circles of Highshire. I clawed my way out of their web, my father's schemes, my siblings' jealous tricks, and forced 3 of his companies out of his grasp. I ran them so well they were booming. Before that wretched marriage began, I was the perfect heiress, praised by everyone. That marriage? It made me a joke. Once upon a time, I might have cut my losses clean, but why didn't I? Why did I fall into the trap? With my palm against my forehead, I tried to think it through. What came to mind was that day, when I was 10, just returned from Grandma's home, staring at the cold, unfamiliar front door. At the faces of adults who couldn't wait to see me fail. Ethan appeared behind me. The look in his eyes was so warm, so sincere. He said, "It's you, my little princess. I've been waiting for you," he said. "My mom told me your house is full of bad people. They want to hurt you. But don't be scared. I'll protect you, always." And that was it. Too young, too naive. I believed the gentlest promise. I handed over my weakness, and years later, it became the sharpest knife. I closed my eyes, let one tear fall. All these years, the only one who ever protected me was myself, and yet I treated myself so badly. I didn't deserve that. Not at all. Chapter 9. A warm touch brushed against my eyelids. My lashes fluttered, and I slowly opened my eyes, only to meet a pair of clear, gentle eyes. Luis stood in front of me, face full of worry. He was holding a tray of food. "I just went to make you something," he said softly. "Sorry. I shouldn't have left you alone." With careful movements, he set the tray down and then sat beside me. His voice dropped to a near whisper. "Can I hug you?" I nodded. Then, those strong arms wrapped around me awkwardly, tight, cautious, like he was afraid I'd break in his embrace. It was a hug without any aggression. He made himself my pillow, my shelter, and the moment my head rested against that firm chest, I heard it, his heartbeat, steady and warm. pulsing against my skin. He gently took my hand and pressed it to his chest. Like he wanted his warmth to seep into me. "Stop hurting yourself," he murmured. It was the second time he'd said that to me. "You can use me however you want. As long as it makes you happy, it's okay." I looked at his young face. So full of sincerity. His eyes were still so clean, filled with burning affection. Love. The most unreliable thing in the world. But maybe it's good enough for healing. At least in the short term. Right now, Luis was exactly what I needed. A safe place to lean on emotionally. And I could feel it. Something in me was changing. The voice in my head that once screamed for revenge was finally falling quiet. Replaced by something calmer. Something clearer. For 3 years, I turned myself into a blade. All thorns. Ready to destroy and be destroyed. But now, I just want to live better. Because someone out there wants me to live better. As I leaned into Luis' chest once again, my mind drifted into a world of white. In that moment, there was no Ethan, no Lily, not even Luis. There was only me, standing in the rain, watching myself from afar. Don't betray yourself again. I reached out my hand and made a promise to myself. Chapter 10. On the day we were supposed to sign the divorce papers, Ethan didn't show up. I had my assistant track his location, then stormed straight to his favorite bar. There he was, in a private room, holding Lily in his arms. By the time I arrived, he was already half drunk. When he saw me walk in, he lifted his brows slightly, but refused to look at me, deliberately turning to kiss Lily instead. Murmuring like he was dreaming, he said, "You're better than her. Her heart is made of stone." I strode over and slapped him across the face, then threw the divorce agreement at his head. "Selena." That fake drunken expression dropped instantly, replaced by open fury. "Awake now?" I looked down at him, voice cold. "Good. Then sign the papers." "I won't." He stood his ground this time. "Do you really not understand me at all? I just wanted you to be softer, more obedient. And you blew everything up when I was chasing you. I groveled for so long, why can't you bow your head? Just once?" He got more worked up the more he spoke, staggering to his feet to argue. Another slap landed square on his face. I sneered. "That's because you were pathetic back then, but I'm not like you. I don't pretend to be someone I'm not just to get my way, then blame others when I can't keep up the act." Ethan stared at me, visibly shaken. At last, he sighed and said coldly, "No wonder even your parents can't stand you." He'd always known how to hit where it hurt. Too bad his words didn't wound me anymore. Just as I raised my hand for a third slap, Lily jumped in front of him. "Sister, it's all my fault. Blame me, okay? Please don't hurt Ethan." Ethan, half hiding behind her, had just started smirking when a large hand caught mine. Luis gently held my hand, blew softly on it. "Does it hurt?" Under the dim light, his eyes were impossibly bright. Ethan's expression darkened. "Selena, care to explain?" I ignored him and pinched Luis's cheek. "Once we're done with this divorce nonsense, I'll take you out for a drive." "Selena!" Frustrated by the neglect, Ethan shouted my name. "Just sign already. I don't have time to waste." I turned back, voice indifferent. Ethan stared at my face, full of doubt. When he finally realized I was serious, his anger flared. "You're doing this for him? What's so great about that kid?" "He's young," I smiled. "Still knows how to please me. Unlike you, even nights have expiration dates." I threw his old words back in his face. "You wanted a divorce because of Lily. I want one for the same reason. We don't love each other anymore. Why drag this out?" "You know that's not what I meant." His voice trembled, but when he saw the mockery on my face, he suddenly grabbed the divorce papers and ripped them to shreds. "I won't sign. Selena, you and I are bound until death." He waited, expecting a reaction, but I didn't even glance at him. I just tugged Luis by the hand and walked away. "Guess we'll talk next time. My little boy's hungry. I'm taking him to eat." As we stepped out of the private room, there was a loud crash behind us, bottles and glass hitting the floor. Outside, I noticed Luis's face was bright red. He looked at me and blinked innocently. "Sis." I'm not a little boy anymore. I can prove it. He seemed genuinely puzzled, swaying closer to me like a puppy wagging its tail. All right. All right. I ruffled his messy hair and changed the subject. You've got work tomorrow. Don't tire yourself out. Though really, I didn't want myself to be too tired. But he was persistent, trailing kisses up my fingers as he half knelt in front of me, with a soft, slightly aggrieved voice. I don't mind being tired. I've still got energy to spare. My thoughts stirred. I tugged on his tie, and he immediately leaned closer, to the car. I murmured, my voice husky. The next second, he scooped me up in his arms. Chapter 11. Ethan refused to divorce me. I didn't bother chasing him again. Instead, I resumed my social life, showing up at elite banquets on Luis's arm, brazen and unbothered, just like Ethan used to do with Lily. His buddies saw us. Their smiles turned stiff. Sis, what's going on? One asked, awkwardly. I remembered how they all used to call Lily little sis-in-law, so I smiled calmly and said, this is your big bro. Before the day was over, everyone in Haiching's high society had heard I'd cheated on Ethan. When Ethan stormed into my place in a rage, my eyes lit up. By the way, remember that watch I gave you? Bring it over. I'll buy it back at full price. I want to gift it to Luis. You know it's a youthful model. You're too old for it now. Like old scallions. Ethan froze, clearly remembering where the watch came from. His expression twisted before he finally softened his tone. Do we really have to make things this ugly? Selena, the whole city's laughing at us. I don't care. I shrugged. It's not the first time I've been mocked. Just that this time, the joke includes both of us. Ethan opened his mouth to say more, but Luis appeared just then, wearing a cat print apron. Seeing Ethan, he got nervous and tugged on my sleeve. Big sis, your ex looks scary. Should I make him some food too? Ethan's face turned darker. I didn't bring Lily today. That shows I'm serious. Selena, make him leave, Ethan said, voice hoarse and laced with suppressed anger. Caught off guard, Luis pointed at himself with a spatula, then frowned, clearly upset. Still, he tried to reason with Ethan. Not bringing your mistress isn't something to brag about. You don't need to keep repeating it. Oh, and you're not a side piece? Ethan sneered. Luis stood tall. I'm not the same. I truly love her. She likes my body, and I can keep her. I've got what it takes. Ethan was livid. He turned to me. Selena, is this really it? No room left to talk? I looked at him and spoke calmly. If you don't want even more people laughing at you, you'd better sign soon. That conversation, once again, ended with nothing. Later that night, Luis sat brooding. Apparently being called a side piece had really bothered him. I didn't comfort him. At this point, I had no plans to remarry. The whole give me a title thing was just my excuse to push for divorce. Luis could leave anytime. I wouldn't stop him. But by nighttime, he'd already talked himself out of the funk. I didn't know. He mumbled, I'm not a side piece. Even if I was, they can punch me. But I'll still come back after. Hee. So I kept showing off with Luis. One day, I bought a yacht to launch fireworks for him. Another time, I gave him a high-paying, do-nothing position in a joint company, same position Lily held. In private, Luis always transferred the ownership of everything I gave him back to my name. In public, though, he embraced his role, strutting around like the most dramatic male mistress ever. Every time he saw Ethan, he'd glare and act like a smug peacock. I wanted to laugh watching him, but the kid was genuinely happy, so I let him be. The first one to snap was Ethan's mother. She arranged to meet with me. Her words were full of criticism. Once, I was the perfect daughter-in-law she handpicked. Now, she said I was an embarrassment. I smiled. I only did what Ethan did to me. Why was it normal when he did it? But now I'm the one being called shameless? She froze. Then her face darkened. They say you've completely lost your way. Seems they were right. Lost my way? I leaned back on the couch. Ethan has assets. I've got mine. He's a CEO. I'm one too. So if he gets to keep a little sweetheart, why can't I have a young boy toy? She opened her mouth again, but I cut her off. From day one, You imposed rules on me, always making me bow to Ethan. But why? What makes him so superior? Or did you think that if I played the obedient wife long enough, I'd hand over my fortune to your useless son like some piggy bank? You. She stood abruptly and tried to throw her tea in my face. I grabbed her wrist midair, leaning closer. I whispered, "You didn't know, huh? I beat your son up every day. If you don't act respectfully, I'll beat you too. Selena, don't go too far." Ethan's voice rang out as he stepped from behind the screen, face dark as thunder. "You want a divorce? Fine. Let's do it now. But don't bully my mother." Gritting his teeth, he shielded his teary-eyed mom behind him. After all this time, Ethan finally gave in, but he wanted to talk about property division in private. Chapter 12. Back at the negotiation table with Ethan. The first thing I did was check the room's surveillance cameras. He gave a bitter smile. "Do you really trust me that little?" I didn't answer, just responded with a cold smirk. From our youth to now, everything between us had turned to rubble. There was nothing left to say. But he still asked, "If I tried to win you back now, would you come back?" I lifted my eyes. "No, I never wanted things to end up like this," Ethan said, his gaze sincere. "I just wanted you to love me a little more, to care a little more. Selena, I don't want to lose you." "Don't want to lose me, or the assets behind me?" I asked flatly. "You, just you," he replied, almost forcefully. "Selena, you were the girl I dreamed of marrying since we were kids. To marry me, and then humiliate and torment me? Then you're truly pathetic," I said, and slid the divorce papers toward him. "If you've decided, then sign." But he swept everything off the table onto the floor. I braced my hands on the desk and stood, watching him as he looked at me with obsession in his eyes. "Selena, do you know you've become radiant again, just like before? Even after seeing you 100 times, I'm still enchanted." Then, suddenly, he turned, pulled open the window, and climbed up onto the ledge. Looking back at me, he said, "I told you, Selena. I've wanted to marry you since I was young. How could I ever let go?" His eyes were storms ready to burst. "If you leave me, I'll jump." We were on the 4th floor. There were bushes below. He probably wouldn't die, just end up in the hospital for a few months. I remembered what a friend had told me earlier, that Ethan was planning a pity stunt to trick me into giving up the divorce. Seeing through it now, I replied calmly, "Ethan, let it go. This is getting pathetic. You love the version of me that shines in public, but want me to dim that light and glow for you alone. That's a contradiction." "I can change," Ethan pleaded, voice trembling. "I don't need you to change anymore. I'll change. I'll be just like I used to, caring, attentive. You won't even have to see my mom anymore. Come back. You can have things your way, please?" When I didn't respond, he grew frantic. "You really fell for someone else, didn't you? Are you really going to watch me die in front of you? That little pretty boy, is he really more important than me?" Before he could finish, my phone buzzed. Luis was calling, probably to ask what I wanted for dinner. "Don't answer." Ethan's gaze locked on my phone. His voice cracked in desperation. "Please don't answer. Stay. Let's talk this out." I didn't look at him. "Ethan," I said softly, "I remember you once told me, once someone stops loving you, even dying in front of them won't matter." I smirked and texted Luis back, then pocketed my phone. Without even glancing at Ethan, I turned and walked away. "Get down already. This drama is embarrassing." Ethan froze in disbelief, then screamed after me, "Selena, you dare not love me? Didn't you say if we die together?" But I didn't stop walking. His tone turned vicious. "You think you can walk away, Selena? If I can't have you, I'll destroy you." I paused and looked up at the camera. Ethan started laughing maniacally. "The cameras? I tampered with them. If I get hurt today, it's attempted murder. All your recent stunts, way too high profile. When this hits the news, your name and your company will both be trash. You won't be able to keep your little business. You'll be stuck with me forever." Then he let go of the window and fell straight down. I sighed. From a nearby flower bed, I retrieved the hidden camera I had installed myself. You think I'd still trust him at this point? Of course I came prepared. From outside came the sound of screams. I stepped out onto the balcony. Ethan lay motionless on the ground below, blood pouring from the back of his head, while a nearby bystander had collapsed in fright. I calmly dialed emergency services to call him an ambulance. Chapter 13. Ethan was paralyzed. His central nervous system was damaged. He'd be bedridden for life. Overwhelmed with joy, I quickly put on a flawless makeup look and went to visit him in the hospital. When I arrived, Lily was already there, sobbing quietly by his bed. She'd been terrified ever since I slapped her last time. Seeing me, she looked like a mouse spotting a cat. Shrinking back instantly, I ignored her, sat at Ethan's bedside, and started to cry dramatically. Oh, my foolish husband. Everyone says affairs ruin families. Look at you now, aren't you halfway ruined? Luis chimed in from the side. So foolish. Brother, you had a good life, and now it's all wrecked. Even your body's wrecked. Ethan's eyes widened on the bed, but he couldn't utter a single word. Just then, my mother-in-law stormed in. You said you wanted to divorce my son. Take your little boy toy and get out of his hospital room. Who let you in here? I blew on my freshly painted nails and replied lazily. What are you talking about, mother-in-law? Ethan and I are doing great. Now that something's happened to him, I can't leave. He and his company both need me. She stared at me, dumbfounded. Then her eyes rolled back and she fainted. As for Lily, I turned to her. Ethan's never going to recover. I'll be transferring him to a general ward in a few days. Before that, I want every cent he ever spent on you returned. She clearly didn't want to, but I raised my hand slightly, and she instantly nodded with tear-filled eyes. I sat back at Ethan's bedside and tucked him in gently, then pulled out the unsigned divorce papers and waved them in front of him. Do you want this? His eyes widened even more, and a gurgling noise came from his throat. Understanding perfectly, I tore the divorce papers into pieces right in front of him. I get it, darling. No divorce. Just like you always said, no divorce. Then I leaned in close and whispered in his ear. Sweetheart, make sure you live a long life. At least outlive your mother. That way, when you die, everything goes to me. I won't have to share it with anyone. In that moment, tears filled Ethan's eyes. I cried too, tears of joy, thankful to the heavens, and proud of myself. We had mutual friends. Of course I knew Ethan was planning a fake suicide stunt to manipulate me. He had patted the ground beneath the window with thick grass and cushions. I had simply replaced those cushions with heavy stones. That patch of ground originally had both, but Ethan had cleared them out specifically to stage his fall. He wanted me ruined? Then I'd have him crippled. He struck first. I struck harder. Best of all, fate was on my side. He landed headfirst on the exact spot with the stones. As a reward for Ethan's devotion, I smiled sweetly and said, let Lily, the one who pleases you most, take care of you now, okay? She loves you so much, I'm sure she won't mind your incontinence. Or ignore the sores you'll get lying in bed. Ethan's eyes flew wide open. I took that as agreement. Chapter 14. In half a month, I took swift action and consolidated all of Ethan's assets. When Luis came to say goodbye, I asked if he was sure. He nodded. I used to worry about you a lot. Now that I see you doing so well, I have no more worries. He wanted to go out and explore the world. After all, being a side piece at 19 wasn't a life plan. I softened at his words. Had my secretary transfer 7 million yuan to his account. When I was drowning in hate, he was like a gift from the heavens. With his comfort, I climbed out of the abyss. He gave me real affection. He deserved to be rewarded. If you ever run into trouble, come find me. He smiled and nodded. But I knew, with his pride, that day would probably never come. Yes, for now, staying married to Ethan brought the most benefit. Luis was still young. His future long and bright. I wouldn't give him a title just to keep him around. He knew that, too. He also knew the woman I'd become. I'd already stepped out of the shadows of my past. I had more important things ahead. When he left, he reminded me to eat well. I sat in my high-rise office, looking out at the river. I thought, maybe this is what people mean when they talk about true love. I called my assistant. Tell that old bastard who wants a deal with me to clean up his romantic messes first. That once aloof father of mine. Now he bowed before me. I guess this is the standard package for a powerful woman. Wealth, loneliness, and a true love that walks away. Maybe, someday, a dramatic, romantic reunion will follow. Fortunately, I no longer have stomach ulcers. I've learned to use every resource to take care of myself. I no longer cling to affection. Nor am I trapped in hatred. This is just fine.